He said, and all I need from you is for you to write a list of the women that you do not want on this album. Well, I got my pen and paper out.
Whitney Elizabeth Houston. Best known as The Voice, she became one of the best-selling music artists of all time, with over 200 million records sold worldwide.
She was a superstar. We throw that word around a lot now, a lot. But she was the definition of a superstar, global, and she influenced everybody.
Houston influenced many singers in popular music and was known for her powerful, soulful vocals, vocal improvisation skills, and use of gospel singing techniques in pop music. She had 11 #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100 and is the only artist to have 7 consecutive #1 singles on the chart.
Whitney Houston went to the top of the U.S. charts and stayed there for 14 non-consecutive weeks, a phenomenal achievement.
She was like the queen at that time of pop and black radio. She was dominating everything. She was the icon.
Not only was she a delicate and passionate singer, but she was also an extremely beautiful model, rising up to be one of the world's most extraordinary stars. Whitney Houston grew up to really have it all.
Whitney Houston didn't almost have it all, like her song. She had it all. She had the voice, the body, the looks, almost an ethereal look to her.
She was almost unrealistically beautiful.
When Whitney Houston first appeared on the scene, her voice captivated the world. You know, someone has said before the invention of auto-tune, there was Whitney Houston. And if you think about how many artists today are helped a bit in the studio and go back to some of those clean, pure vocals of Whitney's 5-octave voice, it is just astounding. Her gift was undeniable.
Whitney Houston was born on August 9, 1963, in Newark, New Jersey. She was pretty much born to a musical dynasty. Whitney's mother, Cissy Houston, is a Grammy-winning gospel vocalist, and her father, John R. Houston, was an ex-Army serviceman and Newark City administrator. They were both African American, and she is thought to have had Dutch and Native American ancestry. Her older brother Michael is also a songwriter, and her older half-brother is the former basketball player and singer Gary Garland.
Her mother was a very, very famous singer. You know, her mom sang with people like Elvis, Luther Vandross, and just every star you can think of. Cissy was very well known in the circuit as the great voice because she had this high octave thing going on.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, and let me stand.
From the very tender age of 5 at New Hope Baptist Church, Cissy taught her daughter to sing from the depths of her soul. But this meant that she was often rough on her daughter, making her repeat notes and musical phrases over and over again, striving for perfection. This tough love eventually came to strain their relationship. John was a very supportive father, spotting his daughter's singing talent at a young age and supporting her global sensation. She was nicknamed Nippy by her father after a cartoon character, and sometimes stayed at home to become Mr. Mom, whilst his wife played club dates and promoted her own singles.
Life growing up for Whitney Houston was kind of normal. It was happy, and she was loved, and their life really was all about the church. Now, this means that they had a huge extended family around them, and she was in no two minds what was important, and it was her mum, her dad, her family, and religion.
Unfortunately, the demands of the two parents' jobs meant that the Houston children would often stay with family, friends, and relatives. Cissy was also caught to be having an affair with the minister from church, and this would come to hurt Whitney, whose home had always been the church, where she joined the singing choir and learned to play piano. Her parents eventually divorced in 1990. At the age of 18, Whitney decided to take a more independent approach to her life. She met Robin Crawford at a New Jersey summer camp when she was 16 and would soon move in with her. This would mark the beginning of her unforgettable music legacy. Whitney started off in a successful modeling career. In 1980, when she was just barely 16 years of age, the young woman was discovered by an agent from Click Model Management in the streets of New York. While she possessed a girl-next-door charm, she also had what one photographer called a million-dollar smile and a personality that absolutely came alive whenever the camera focused in on her. Her angelic pout, her magnetic aura, and zest for life landed her in magazines such as 17, Glamour, Cosmopolitan, or Mademoiselle.
As well as being a young singer, Whitney became a model too. In fact, she was the first black female to grace the cover of 17 magazine in America. This was huge. And yes, she's known as the voice, but my goodness, she had the face too.
However, Whitney soon abandoned her modeling career in order to devote herself to music. Whitney Houston's music ancestry was very much rooted in the soul gospel tradition. Her mother, Cissy Houston, was a huge part of Whitney's musical life, as well as her cousin Dionne Warwick and honorary aunt Aretha Franklin. She grew up in the company of other great female soul singers, such as Gladys Knight and Roberta Flack. Her music career would begin in 1983 when Jerry Griffith, an A&R representative from Arista Records, saw Whitney performing with her mother in New York. He told Arista's head, Clive Davis, to see her perform. Impressed, he offered her a record deal on the spot, which she eventually signed. Later that same year, the young singer made her national television debut on the very popular Merv Griffin Show.
Whitney Houston was a pop producer's dream. Now we're used to manufactured girls, boys coming out who look perfect, and we kind of know that they won't be able to sing very well. Whitney Houston had the face, the body, the charm. That wayward, she was so charismatic, she filled the room.
But the first song that drew my attention to Whitney was Saving All My Love for You.
'Cause tonight is the night for feeling alright. We'll be making love the whole night through. So I'm saving all my love. Yes, I'm saving all my love. Yes, I'm saving all my love for you.
When this song became a huge hit, it started to air on MTV, a music channel which received harsh criticism for not featuring many videos by Black, Latino, and other racial minorities, seemingly favoring white artists in the early 1980s.
You had this girl that looked like a supermodel, but then she had this incredible voice, and that package, everyone was just like, oh my goodness, it's outrageous. Who is this girl? You know, she's amazing. And so you heard Saving All My Love, and then MTV was only starting to get a bit big then.
Whitney's third U.S. single, How Will I Know, peaked at #1, and this is when the video became a hit with the MTV audience, making her the first African-American woman to receive consistent airplay on MTV. The album topped the chart in many countries, including Canada, Australia, Norway, and Sweden, while peaking at #2 in the United Kingdom, Germany, and Switzerland.
How Will I Know, which was Whitney's third U.S. single, went to #1 and was really the first time that a young African-American woman was all over MTV. That video was massively successful. It was on constantly, and it really cemented Whitney's presence in mainstream America.
How will I know if he really loves me? I say a prayer with every heartbeat. I fall in love whenever we meet. I'm asking you 'cause you know about these things. How will I know if he's thinking of me? I try to fall, but I'm too shy. Falling in love is so bittersweet. This love is strong, but I feel weak.
In 1986, at the 28th Grammy Awards, Whitney Houston received 4 nominations, including Album of the Year, and won one, Best Pop Vocal Performance, Female, for Saving All My Love for You. The album ranked on Rolling Stone magazine's list of the 500 greatest albums of all time in all 3 editions. Her next album, Whitney, released in 1987, debuted at #1 position on the Billboard chart. The first single, I Wanna Dance with Somebody, skyrocketed to the top of the charts around the world.
The song I Want to Dance with Somebody again just encapsulated how vibrant she was. I remember the video well. It was on MTV all the time. No small feat. She was the first Black female to be on MTV pretty much constantly. Her enthusiasm and innocence just shone through. She was kind of a bit gangly and shy. I don't know if I want to dance, but as soon as she did it, you knew watching that video, not only was she the star of that video, no matter who was in the background, but she was there. She was going to have a long, lasting career.
Houston would then release a back-to-back string of consecutive #1 singles with her next 3 songs, Didn't We Almost Have It All, So Emotional, and Where Do Broken Hearts Go? She went on to set an all-time record for most consecutive #1 singles with 7, besting the previous record set by the Beatles in the 1960s and matched a decade later by the Bee Gees. Houston formed the Whitney Houston Foundation for Children, an organization that cared for the homeless and children with cancer and AIDS. It eventually brought the singer one of her many awards for her humanitarian work, as did her involvement with the United Negro College Fund.
We don't want special treatment or favors or privileges. We want to know that in dealing with our personal and private tragedies and triumphs against this disease, our fellow human beings will support and care for us as they would naturally want to do for anyone with a life-threatening illness.
The singer Whitney Houston reportedly donated £20,000 towards the cost of the event, which covered expenses more than twice. The extra money will be used for extra publicity.
Sadly, there is a stigma associated with those afflicted with AIDS. Even as we speak, it is sweeping away our children, our families, our loved ones. Our world we must continue through research to work toward finding a cure.
Ever since moving in with Robin Crawford, the pair became inseparable. No one was closer to her than Robin Crawford. She was by her side as a close collaborator, professional gatekeeper, and above all, her best friend. Throughout the 2 decades that followed, her relationship with Whitney was in the limelight. Some people questioned this bond to be one that was more than that of a friendship, and people really wondered about her sexual orientation. They were completely smitten with each other, but ever since signing that record deal with Clive Davis in 1982, Houston felt that this relationship would make our journey even more difficult, and so felt it was best to end that relationship.
There's a phrase in psychology known as cognitive dissonance. And this is a problem that's caused when people are one thing when they face the world and another thing when they face themselves. So if you were saying, like Whitney did, that I am a good girl, I'm an honest girl, I'm an all-American girl, I am who I say I am, I'm a heterosexual girl, when you're saying all those things to the world and the truth might be slightly different, that creates all kinds of problems, particularly when you have a religious upbringing like she did, because what it means is she's not just being dishonest to other people and dishonest to herself, she's also being dishonest to God. And that creates a huge personality crisis. Imagine that she's brought up, which she was, in a religion which is very judgmental, particularly around issues of sexuality. So she's going to carry beliefs because her sexuality was so ambiguous, and there is no doubt that she was at the very least bisexual. She's having to lie to the world about who she is and then maintain some sense of self-esteem. Well, you can't do that, because when you're brought up in the environment that she was brought up, you're going to think, I'm not a good person, and my needs can't be met, because I can't be who I really am. Because if I let the world know who I really am, then the world will reject me, the world will judge me, and importantly, the world will punish me.
During this time, some Black critics also began to voice their disapproval of Houston's music, especially with her release of I Wanna Dance with Somebody, and in particular, the rock song So Emotional, accusing the singer of selling out. They also felt that her records lacked the soul of her live performances of the same songs. Her name was also jeered by some in the audience at both the 1988 and 1989 Soul Train Music Awards, after she was announced as a nominee in a category. Houston defended herself against the criticism, telling Essence magazine in 1990, "If you're gonna have a long career, there's a certain way to do it, and I did it that way. I'm not ashamed of it."
I loved what she said, because she sort of came out when she went to accept her award. She said, you know, you have to do what you have to do to get to where you want to go sometimes. I wanted to be a big artist, so I had to make music that would work for the white audience as well as the Black audience.
Wanting to take on more creative control over her albums, She went on to release her third studio album, I'm Your Baby Tonight, in 1990. Houston chose to work with Reed and Babyface for this album. Upon its release, the single was generally well received by most critics, who applauded its sound and Houston's previous works. However, some other critics at the time had felt that Houston's change in tone was just about superficial. She would come to prove these people wrong when her rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner in 1991, inspired by Marvin Gaye's performance, captured hearts around the world. She donated her royalties to the Red Cross.
I remember, everyone remembers, 1991, Whitney's rendition of Star-Spangled Banner was absolutely flawless, beautiful, and effortless.
I really don't care what anyone says. I don't think anyone has ever sung Star-Spangled Banner like Whitney did. Every single other person that's come and sung it, I don't remember, except her one. She completely nailed it.
Houston met R&B singer Bobby Brown at the 1989 Soul Train Music Awards. She sat behind Brown and bumped into him while hugging her friends. Laughing, she would hit Bobby on the back of his head, lean over and say, "Bobby, I'm so sorry." To which Bobby would respond, "Yeah, well, just don't let it happen again."
The headlines were kind of like, what? What are these people doing together? He was a bit of a ladies' man, a real bad boy who already had kids, lots of exes. And I think people worried.
She seemingly always had this feeling that Bobby didn't quite like her. But this uncertainty was something that always intrigued Houston. He accepted an invitation to Houston's 26th birthday party later on. And after a 3-year courtship, the two were married on July the 18th, 1992. They were married for 14 years, and this marriage seemed to be one hell of a roller coaster, with their first fight being seen just days into their honeymoon. Only shortly after their wedding, Houston decided to venture into acting and went ahead with plans to start in The Bodyguard. The film grossed $411 million worldwide, becoming the second highest grossing film of 1992 behind Aladdin, and at the time of its release, the 10th highest grossing film of all time. The soundtrack album itself, which featured 6 Houston performances, sold around 24 million copies, putting it into the top 5 best-selling albums of all time. The biggest single generated from the soundtrack, and the longest number of weeks at #1 ever, was her rendition of Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You, which earned Houston 3 Grammys in 1994.
I Will Always Love You, what a choice of song. It was #1 for 20 consecutive weeks in America. Dolly Parton says, "Thank you, Whitney, for making this a far more beautiful song than I could ever have hoped to."
But this is where things started to get rocky. Bobby Brown's ego was knocked back by being called Mr. Houston. It was quite clear at this time that Bobby was jealous of the light that was shone on his wife since The Bodyguard. Wanting to be in the spotlight himself, he found himself there for all the wrong reasons. Accused of sexual harassment, violence, drug taking, and domestic abuse.
He had an image as a tough guy. That's what he was trying to project. And Whitney, when introduced to drugs, couldn't handle it.
Something went wrong with that union there, where drugs came in and became a part of their life, and it was a mistake because it took them both down. So sometimes two energies come together and they can destroy each other. It's not about blame. You can't blame anyone. There's sometimes two people are toxic together. Sometimes that can happen. And I think that's what happened there, and it's sad. But I do believe that a man, regardless of what we can say here about, we can't say we weren't in the marriage, we weren't there. But I will say this, is that a man who is a real man would have got that girl out of trouble.
The two went on to share a daughter, Bobby Christina Brown, who was born on March the 4th, 1993. After suffering a miscarriage on the set of The Bodyguard, Whitney wanted her daughter to be with her at all times. But this caused problems in later life, as her daughter's normal childhood came to be far from that of normal. Her mother started becoming active in drug use, and the poor daughter witnessed things she should never have seen. Both Houston and Bobby had faced addiction before their marriage, but over the years, their challenges escalated. Bobby was arrested for charges related to drunk driving and possession, while Houston sought treatment in rehab multiple times. Brown said in 2022 that they'd still be together if it wasn't for drugs. Drugs just got the better of us. In many ways, Bobby provided a stability in her life, and she had someone who truly cared about her. Unfortunately, it became too much for the both of them to handle.
It locks two people together into this world where each one of them thinks the other person is the only person that truly understands them, the only person that truly loves them, the only person that truly sees them for who they are. So to the point where Whitney actually said, "He was my drug." You know, when we fight, it's love. So they descended into this world of alcohol, prescription drugs, cocaine, whatever stories are true and whatever aren't true. We know it was a world where it was a world full of addiction.
But this didn't quite stop Whitney from being the voice. Instead, she went on to promote her first studio album in 7 years. The album, My Love Is Your Love, released in 1998, garnered critical acclaim. This album is composed of mid-tempo R&B, hip-hop soul, pop and dance music, produced by musicians such as Rodney Jerkins, Shoshak and Carlin, Missy Elliott, and many more. It also introduced elements of hip-hop into Houston's work, only sparingly used in her previous material. Following the album's huge success, Houston renewed her contract with Arista for $100 million, one of the biggest recording deals of all time.
My Love Is Your Love actually took 8 years to make. This came after a lot of kind of train wreck personal life stuff with drug issues, fights in the marriage with her and Bobby, all kinds of trouble. She came out of that recording this album. Originally, it was going to be a greatest hits album with a couple of new songs, but actually once they got in the studio, she had great collaborators on this, including Missy Elliott, some great songs. It turned into an album all by itself. It was a change for Whitney. It was a little funkier, it was a little more pop, it was a little more edgy, and I think in some ways it was a reflection of Bobby Brown's influence because it did sound more like that kind of R&B music than the kind of ballads and the kind of very white music that we were used to hearing from Whitney.
It would take an eternity to break us, and then it takes a phone star couldn't hold us.
she comes with the my love is your love, and then all the black, audience love her again, and we're like, ooh, Whitney, we love you, you're so cool, and you look great in the video, and we love you, and whatever. But then I think it started to spiral out of control. What started to happen was the personal relationship started to spiral out of control. There started to be too many stories about the marriage being wrong. Now, remember, everyone had already thought that it was a bad choice of partner for her anyway, because they can't understand what she would be doing with a guy like Bobby. They could never understand that because he was the bad boy and she was the diva.
Houston made an appearance on Michael Jackson's 30th anniversary special, which spurred up rumors of drug use. Her extremely thin frame led to major concern. Houston's publicist revealed what was wrong. Whitney has been under stress due to family matters, and when she is under stress, she doesn't eat. Sadly, these family matters were a reference to the fact that Whitney's own father had been stealing huge sums of money from her. Though they were close in the beginning, their relationship became strained after he had sued his superstar daughter in 2002, filing a lawsuit against the singer. He had died at the age of 82 after a long battle with diabetes and heart disease. Whitney's 5th studio album, entitled Just Whitney, was the first album where Clive Davis was not the producer, but also the first album where the team found it hard to record with Whitney. In December 2003, Bobby Brown was charged with battery following an altercation in which he threatened to beat Houston and then assaulted her, with police reporting that Houston had visible injuries to her face. Although she had hoped never to become a divorcee, the couple did end up filing for divorce in September 2006.
The only way he could be the boss was to try and strip her of her power, to assert his dominance, not just by negating her dominance, but also by destroying her personality and by demeaning her talent. Men, particularly alpha males, who supposedly Bobby Brown was one of them, will react to feelings of powerlessness through violence. It's the way they get their power back. A man like Bobby Brown doesn't want to be Mr. Houston. He wants his wife to be Mrs. Brown. And because that could never happen, the implications for their marriage were severe and damaging.
After a 6-year break from recording, Houston returned to the top of the Billboard 200 chart with her final studio album, I Look to You, in 2009. She had told press in London that this album would reflect her emotional state and chronicle events in her personal life since her last musical release in 2002. She said, "That makes it real. The changes that we go through, the transitions that we go through, the tests that we go through, being a mother, becoming a single mother, it all had its ups and downs. But for the most part, I kept my faith and I kept my head up. I took my time. Hopefully, not only does it inspire me, but inspires a whole lot of other people." According to Davis, this album was not aimed at simply following current music marketing trends, but instead, staying true to who Houston is and the impact she has had on the music industry.
She was still a sensitive artist, which was, am I okay? Am I all right? Do you think I'm going to be good at this? Which is so endearing. And that kind of person is all of us. And we all need reassurance. We all need to have a support system around us that makes us feel it's going to be all right. And when that's not there, it makes it a very hard business to be in.
When Whitney came back with I Look to You, it really was supposed to be a big comeback. And if you look at the words to the song, it really is about asking God for strength. This was Whitney's kind of coming back, not just to the public, but to her own roots, her very deep, cemented belief in God, which she had throughout her life. And it was kind of a return to her mother's gospel roots. And it was Whitney kind of acknowledging in the song, she'd had a lot of problems, she'd been through a lot of difficult things, but by looking to God, she would find her strength.
After all that I've been through,
I Look to You went on to sell over 2.5 million copies worldwide, earning platinum certification in 7 countries and gold certification in 8, and was her first album to reach #1 in the US since 1992's The Bodyguard. Although this looked like a huge success to begin with, the facade could not be maintained. Houston embarked on a world tour for the first time in over 10 years, entitled Nothing But Love World Tour. Unfortunately, the opening night of the Australian leg of the tour suffered bad reviews from critics. Her performance in the Brisbane Entertainment Centre was poorly received, and some fans reportedly left. Houston's vocal condition was described as hoarse. Another action which came under fire from fans was when she paused from singing her song, I Will Always Love You, for many moments while she took a drink of water. Although many people saw her passion for music and the surroundings in which this made her truly happy, many people could not escape a woman who was still quite wound up on drugs. Only days before her death, Whitney intended to attend the annual pre-Grammy Awards party hosted by her longtime mentor Clive Davis at the Beverly Hilton Hotel Los Angeles, where she was staying. She dropped into rehearsals to speak to the artists who were set up to perform on that night. She had her hair in curlers and dripping wet, wore mismatched clothing, and onlookers were slightly worried about her disheveled appearance despite her warm smiles. According to a newspaper, Whitney was seen skipping around a ballroom and doing handstands near the hotel pool. On that same day, although nobody knew it, she would make her final performance with Kelly Price on stage in Hollywood, returning to her church roots by singing, Jesus Loves Me. Whitney's voice here was almost unrecognizable, and this really played a part in what was a beautiful and impromptu moment between the two divas.
And it's really unfortunate, because she should have never gone down the way she did. That was too much.
Her worrying behavior was a major cause for concern for her friends and family, given she was seen drinking numerous tequilas throughout the evening. Later in the day, Whitney picked up the phone to chat to her mom, Cissy Houston, while she was preparing herself for the party that night. But it was only a matter of minutes that Whitney's security guard found her unresponsive in the bathtub filled to the brim with water. Sadly, she was pronounced dead later, with several attempts to resuscitate her. Her loved ones said that their conversations with Whitney that night indicated no signs of what would happen, with Cissy calling the loss of her daughter an unimaginable tragedy. On March 22, 2012, the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office reported that Houston's death was caused by accidental drowning and the effects of atherosclerotic heart disease and cocaine use. The office stated the levels of cocaine found in Houston's body indicated that she used the substance shortly before her death. Toxicology results revealed additional drugs in her system: Benadryl, Xanax, cannabis, and Flexeril.
This is a huge loss to the music world. This is a voice, this is an artist, this is a woman that everybody in this world knew. This is a voice and a tone with a power to just move your emotions like, in my opinion, no other voice can. Whitney Houston is probably my greatest female inspiration as a singer. I was listening to her from a baby to now, and a lot of the reason why I'm able to be standing here today is because of her. So my heart is extremely heavy, and I do have to stop myself from getting emotional about it, because it's like losing someone you know, and everyone knows Whitney even if you never actually knew her. Yeah.
An invitation-only memorial service was held for Whitney Houston on Saturday, February 18, 2012, at the New Hope Baptist Church in Newark, New Jersey, the very same church where it all started. And tragically, where it also ended.
She was a superstar. We throw that word around a lot now, a lot. But she was the definition of a superstar, global, and she influenced everybody. So I'm just honored to have worked with her. I had a joke, she had a joke, it was insane. So we had a good time. We worked on 3 songs. We spent a lot of time together in LA, in New York, in Atlanta. And every single time she was encouraging. And then after the songs were done, when she was doing press, she always said my name and kept on telling people, you know, Claude Kelly, he's the next songwriter to look out for. And she'd always tell me, she was like, just embrace your gift and really work hard and enjoy it. And she was right. And I just have a special place in my heart for her.
Another tragic twist to this story is that on July 26, 2015, Whitney's daughter, Bobby Christina, was found unconscious in a filled bathtub in her home, chillingly mirroring her mother's death. After being in a coma for nearly 6 months, Bobby, at the very young age of 22, died from labor pneumonia.
And let's spare a thought for Bobby Christina. This is a girl who's grown up with parents, both of whom are addicts. Allegedly, she's been sitting in the back of a car when Whitney and Bobby were using crack cocaine. This is a child whose role models, parental role models, are models of denial, models of addiction, and models of people who are living lives which are destructive and addictive.
Bobby Christina explained what Whitney would be like after she came off stage. She would go to Bobby Christina and say, "Was I okay, Bobby? Was Mommy okay tonight? Did I do okay? Did I sing all right?" Bobby Christina would always be like, "Yes, Mommy, you were great, you were great." The public didn't really get to know that side of who she really was, which was sensitive and a tad insecure. And isn't it crazy? You can have all that success and all that fame, and you yourself can't own it. And that's the picture I get from Whitney. She didn't really know how fantastic she was, really. I don't think so.
Whitney Houston's death really did reverberate around the world. You know, sometimes I think you don't realize what an iconic figure someone is until they're gone.
I think the religious aspect was hugely important to Whitney and played huge significant part in her life. I think that she maybe lost the road a little when we saw the decline through drugs and addiction. But ultimately, it's what brought her family together so beautifully in the end, too.
There'll never be another Whitney. There's only one Whitney Houston, you know, and there'll never be another one.
Whitney Houston's career started so light, and it ended so heavy. Her great talent would never be heard again. Not only did she have a phenomenal singing voice, her beauty and girl-next-door charm won the hearts of millions around the world. But it would be her untimely death that would scar the music industry. With a voice like Whitney's coming around once in a lifetime, nobody could truly shine like Whitney. She may be gone, but her legacy lives on.
We'll just remember the genius that took her to the top of the world, and in posterity, we'll make sure she stays there.
She'll be remembered for flying the flag for Black women. She'll be remembered for having one of the best voices ever. Not in America, not for a Black woman, just having one of the best voices that we've ever heard.
Anyone who sings like this usually doesn't look like that. Let's keep it real. She had it all. But there is the curse. There is the curse. You know, it's very hard to have all of that perfection and live up to it. And I know that Whitney struggled with that. I think she struggled with that a lot. She felt she had a lot to live up to all the time.
In the case of Whitney Houston, her own personal life and problems are unimportant. What is important, because it is unique, is that she had the style which young women emulated for over a quarter of a century. That is amazing. And whereas there are millions of substance abusers, there was only one Whitney.